What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room YouTube channel. And this is a brand new live stream series we've got for you called Transfer Central. And I'm your host, Chris Stonadge. And we are joined by Mr. Louis Fell, the Watch Along King. How are you, mate? You good?
Hello. All's well. All's well. I'm excited.
Yeah.
As you can tell by my voice.
Excited as a guy on death row, I think the quote is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're also joined by one of our main man writers, Neil. How are you, Neil? You good?
I'm very well, thanks, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. No one usually asks how I am. You know,
you said that last time, which is what
I know. I know. Just keep it going, mate. Keep it going. Before we get into transfers, boys, we're going to go into just what happened yesterday. Chelsea 2-0 up at Stamford Bridge with a depleted squad, which I was as buzzing as the next man. But obviously we threw the game away. We'll start with you, Neil. How did you feel about it, really, and how frustrating was it to not get the 3 points?
It is frustrating because I think we should have a stronger mentality to be able to manage the game better just before half time. We're sort of 5 minutes away from half time, 2-0 up, and we've got plenty of experience on the pitch, and I think we have to manage that situation better. On reflection today, I don't think it's a bad result. I'm more fed up about the Leicester result, if I'm honest, because I felt that was self-inflicted. Yesterday, we had a lot of things going against us, other than, as I say, just that having that issue where we didn't see out the game to half time. I think, you know, a draw at Chelsea is never a bad result. There were some good performances, there were some bad performances. I think we just got to take what we can, try and get as many players back as quickly as possible, and try and get winning again. So mixed reaction from me, but as I say, I was more hacked off with the Leicester result than I was with yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people, including probably myself, forgot. Is that we did have 9 players missing, and that didn't only impact the starting 11, Louis, but it also impacted the substitutes, and we had literally no one to bring on, really, apart from Oxlade, Chamberlain, and Keita, which wouldn't really influence it. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I said that to you at half-time during the game. We're up against Tuchel, who's one of his key strengths is in-game tactical tweaks when things aren't quite going his way. And I said substitutions. In the end, they weren't key, but our substitutions, we just didn't have the strength to really change anything around. And I agree with Neil. A point at Stamford Bridge against a side like this isn't the worst result in the world. But ultimately, it was our best chance to beat them this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the previous game we drew, it was 1-1, wasn't it? And they were down to 10 men, and they still really were the better team for most of the game. They defended really well, and they were sort of at the height of their power under Tuchel. But coming into this game, they'd drawn 4 of the last 5 at home, and they were missing a few players. So really, ultimately, against man for man, the team we played, not a bad result, but in the context of the season and where both teams are, and considering it's the 4th time this season that we've lost a 2-goal lead, it's just something you can't do when you're trying to go after titles. So more generally, it feels like we're certainly a cup team this year.
Yeah, interesting what you say about the in-game management from Tuchel, because I think there was his initial change yesterday actually worked against him, didn't he? And then they went quite narrow, and suddenly Trent and Tsimikas were getting acres of space in the channels. But he very quickly changed that, didn't he? And then the game kind of shifted back to type where they were kind of in the ascendancy. And I think that's where
Tuchel and Klopp kind of differ, and it's not necessarily a hindrance on either of them because they're both very successful managers. But I might be wrong, but I feel like Klopp's someone who likes to stick to his guns. We often accuse him, well, some people, not me, accuse him of not having a plan B. And I think that ultimately over the course of a season works to our strength because we're very good at the things we do well.
Yeah.
Whereas as Tuchel is someone who's much more willing to chop and change depending on how a certain game is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned about the title race thing, and you can't do it when dropping titles, especially when you're facing off against a side in Manchester City who are winning every single game is frustrating. But we'll go on to another game before we go right into our transfers. Manchester United lost again tonight, boys. Their first loss under Ralph Rangnick. And it's fair to say there's going to be a lot of frustration emanating out of Old Trafford, Louis.
Oh, absolutely. I think the thing that will frustrate most Man U fans is that they, getting Ollie out of the door and bringing in this revolutionary Rangnick, and he's been here over a month, two months or so now, and there's been little sign of a revolution. I said just before we jumped on, McTominay's still starting every game. Donny van der Beek still can't get into the team. I mean, I can't imagine what he's doing wrong in training, because every time he comes on, he breathes fresh air into the Man U team. So it feels like something's definitely off there. And I don't know what other side has their technical director on the sidelines barking orders at the team. They had Darren Fletcher marching up and down the touchline alongside Rangnick, and that it just feels very off to me. Like maybe Rangnick was brought in on a promise of total control, and it's maybe not been delivered, and he's sort of having to work under the strings of someone else.
The thing that really weirds me out is, yes, you need players to fit Rangnick's style. These players clearly don't. But what's the forward-thinking plan? Because he's leaving in 6 months. He's not going to be the manager of the football club, Neil.
Well, I don't think he's leaving, is he? I think
he's going upstairs,
deal.
But
yeah, he's got a consultancy deal. So I guess what they're looking for him to do is implement his psychology on the club and try and put a structure in place off the pitch that may have been missing in the past. But it's a funny time, as you say, because 6 months in charge of the team to then move upstairs. Do they know who they're bringing in, and is that person going to work with Rangnick and the way that he wants to take things forward? Or everything just seems a little bit off the cuff there to me. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're not even decided on the manager yet. They've got Rangnick in on the promise that he'll stay in this consultancy role. So it's difficult. Go on.
Sorry, go on, Neil.
No, I was just going to say, just with the players, he's got this very rigid 4-2-2-2 system. I don't think he has the fullbacks to play that, do they? So today was Wan-Bissaka and Shaw. If it was Trent and Robbo, maybe they'd be having a little more success. But I think as a manager, you have to be adaptable as well. And you look at the spell that we went through, which was shocking at the start of last year. I got the opinion that the players and Klopp and all the coaching staff worked really hard to try and get a system and a style of play that would get us results, and ultimately, it paid off, and we finished third. So I'm interested to see if he's prepared to adapt, because it isn't working. So, I think there's all the games I've watched, not been particularly impressed with any of them, to be honest.
I think one of the main issues that they need to resolve is in midfield, and this is where we transition into our transfer discussion. DENIS Zakaria is a player who's been linked across leagues, really. His contract is out at the end of the season. Swiss international, 25 years old, from Borussia Mönchengladbach. Manchester United, Liverpool, Barcelona, all been linked with him, Neil. Would he provide something good for Liverpool in the midfield depth position, or do you think he'd be a better suited player for Manchester United?
I think he'd do well for both teams, to be honest. Now, if I look at us, he's someone that primarily plays as a defensive midfielder, so he would offer some cover for Fabinho. All right, Henderson does a job in there, but what Zakaria's got, he's blessed. He's very good on the ball for a guy who I think he's 6'3", but he's blessed with pace as well. And he's got terrific mobility getting around the pitch. So in our sort of high intensity, other than yesterday's game, midfield, I think he'd be a perfect fit. And I think he'd do well. I think he'd do well at United, because I think they struggle in the centre of midfield. And I think he'd add a bit of energy in there. He's been compared to Vieira by some people. He's good on the ball, very quick, can play defensive midfield. I think he can play centre half as well. So I don't see many negatives for Liverpool in pursuing that deal. I just don't know whether they'll pay the small fee that's needed now. I say small, £6 million or whatever it is now, to advance on his before his contract expires in June.
And it is definitely a small fee because if you think about it, and I'm thinking about this from FSG cash cow point of view, I'm thinking £6 million for a player who could potentially be worth 30 on a 5-year contract.
Yeah,
That's it. Just screams, financially viable. But Louis, what were your thoughts if DENIS Zakaria came in?
Well, as Neil said, he's definitely someone who can provide a viable alternative to Fabinho. So many of our players are liable to have a knock here and there, Fabinho being one of them as well. And although, as you said, Jordan Henderson can cover that position, he's a totally different player. And it just means that we have to almost rapidly alter the way that we approach a game and not play to our best in order to make up for Fabinho not being there. So if we can get a player who reduces that drop-off and can come in on a moment's notice, or maybe fill in as a number 8 as well, with Thiago being injury-prone, then that, as you said, there's no real negatives there. On your point, Chris, about the small transfer fee, the only thing is, if they can wait until the summer to get him for free, that's absolutely what they'll do. And to be honest, even if another club goes in for him in January, I don't see that scaring FSG into making a move, which is sad.
Exactly. I mean, it's a really, really difficult one. Honestly, I can see us doing it, if I'm being honest. Maybe not in January, but in the summer. If we're looking for a cost-effective midfielder, he's probably top of the list. But you never know with Liverpool. Moving on to another man who was on the winning side, as we mentioned earlier, Adama Traore is apparently available for £18 million from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, Louis, I think that with Adama, he's so much, excuse the phrase, all fart and no poo. But you know what I'm saying? I just think Jurgen Klopp can make him poo, man. I really think he can.
I don't know. He came on as a sub, funnily enough, in the Wolves game just now, and he played into his strengths, which is holding up the ball and running at people. And the thing is, Adama Traore, he's not even like Wolves' best player at the minute, and I don't think he's registered an assist or a goal this season. I might be wrong on that. I don't know. I know that people can just say that we brought Salah in and other players and made them magical, but I only see Adama Traore as useful in the last 10 minutes to come on, drive at people, get it in the corner, and use his strength to keep it there. It would take more Klopp magic to get the best out of him, I think, because he had the chance to put some people in as well on goal, and he played some shocking passes. Like, they were horrifically misplaced, really easy passes that he completely screwed up. So I'm not 100% sure. I don't buy it, but if he's cheap, I don't know what sort of figures we're talking.
18 million, I think.
18 million,
yeah.
I think for 18 million, you get yourself a real option there. I mean, to put it in an example, I think we spent 12 million on Shaqiri. Now, he was probably a slightly more technical option, provided something different, but I'd put Traore in that same bracket, Neil.
Are we not setting the bar? Sorry to interrupt. Are we not setting the bar a bit too low on ourselves, though? Like, Shaqiri didn't really. I know he did come in with some big goals, but he didn't really work. And I feel like we must be getting past the stage where we're trying to sign players to make a better career for them. We've got to be buying players who are like almost the finished products at this point, haven't we?
Maybe. I think, I think you almost need to understand what the long-term plan is. So if we are looking to bring in a Rafinha, for instance, in the summer, he's one that's been touted. Are we now looking at someone that's going to come in short-term, do a job for us? We may lose Origi, so effectively Traore would replace an Origi or a Minamino. To be honest, I'd take the gamble, because again, I don't think you're going to lose money if you're getting him for 18 million. I think if we're grinding teams down and they're knackered, the last thing you want in the last 20 minutes of a game is him coming on and running at you. So yeah, end product's a massive issue. But he's still quite young. He's only 25. He's a Spain international. I think the upside is huge, massive, if you get it right. If he gets it right, but I don't think the risk is particularly high if it goes wrong. But as I say, I agree with you, Louis. I don't think we are looking for Adama Traore to replace Sadio Mane. We may be looking for Rafinha to replace Sadio Mane. And I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying we need to get rid of Mane.
Yeah.
But I do think as an impact player, I think he would be a good option for us. To be honest, I think a signing would lift everybody at the moment. Whether it was Zakaria, whether it was Traore, it would just give everyone a bit of a lift.
I sort of remember when Ben Davies came in and it gave everyone a bit of a lift. So
yeah, it did, yeah.
I'm sure that's a compliment.
We'll take anything we'll get. Yeah.
Hey, listen, big up Ben. Even though he played no games,
Nathan Clarkson's come back from loan. That's a lift, isn't it?
Mate, listen, I tell you what, he'll probably start on Sunday and he'll probably play on Thursday.
Nice little player, Clarkson. I saw him. I always quite liked his style of play, but I saw him in. There was the 2 pre-season games, weren't there? One day after the other, and it was on the Monday night. I was there. He come on. He ran the game for the last half an hour. So I think he's a tidy player. It's just not worked out for him at Blackburn, unfortunately.
I think that with Clarkson, he benefits with, yes, the Premier League is physical, but it's not the Championship. And he benefits from the more technical time that he's given on the ball. I wonder whether he's more suited to it. Obviously, we're not looking for him to be the next, Thiago, but we're looking for him to be a Morton-type squad player. And you know what? It helps with registration rules. That's all I'm saying. I think with him, though, I don't know about you, Louis, I think it'll be sort of a Nat Phillips thing where he comes in for January, gets in the shop window and goes out on loan again.
What, Clarkson?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to be the downbeat, but he's not going to do much. He might look good against Shrewsbury, but he's a long way off being Premier League ready. I wouldn't put him in the same bracket as Morton. I think Morton at this point in his career is relatively far ahead of him. But just
go on, Louis, sorry.
Just going back to Traore, because I was just thinking about what you said, and bearing in mind we are under an FSG side, which Anthony and Jose in the comments have said, we are on a transfer budget, and going on what I said about is it somewhat of a risk to bring him in, because if we are on a budget, does that mean that we don't then go and sign someone who'd be more expensive and potentially more beneficial in the short and long term? Like if we went for a Darwin or Traore, do you think in the same window we would go and get a Rafinha?
No.
And would that then be a negative?
I think we wouldn't get Traore if we didn't get Rafinha. I think Rafinha is the first priority. We always go, and it's frustrating. Sometimes we just need a dog's body in there, but we always seem to go for the right player. It has to be the right player. Kanate was that one. Virgil was another who it was the same. Jota, another one. It could have been Ismaila Sarr. We picked Jota specifically. And I think we don't get Traore if we don't get a Rafinha, if you know what I mean. But as in our front four at the moment, I think Traore is a viable addition anyway, purely because he offers something completely different. It's not, and with a better team, who knows? Maybe you would get more goal contributions. It's a weird one. But yeah, moving on to another link away today. Divock Origi potentially linked with Juventus, as you alluded to, Neil. Juventus 5th in the Serie A, scored 19 goals in 12 games this season. They need a striker. Is Divock their man?
I'm never convinced, and I love Divock, and I think he's done some wonderful things for this club, and I think he's very talented. I don't think he's going to go to a club and become a main striker for someone, because I don't think I think he's inconsistent, and I think the best players are the ones that can perform and do things week in, week out, even if they're not playing well. With him, he can be brilliant, and we know he can be brilliant, but he can also be very, very bad. So I think they've got Morata there at the moment on loan from Atletico. I know they're still trying to. I think they're still trying to sort out the deal for him. I don't see Divock going in there and being the main man.
No.
As harsh as it may seem.
I mean,
and he said he's played well this season. He's done well when he's played this season. Limited opportunities, and there's been assists, there's been goals, but I just don't think he's got it in him to go and be a main man somewhere. I hope I'm wrong, because he's been a really good servant for Liverpool, but that's my view.
Juve's top scorers this season are Morata and Dybala with 5 goals each, Louis.
Yeah.
I think you stick Origi in that team, he probably scores more.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe he's more of a focal point striker, because every time Klopp is asked about him in a press conference, he always says that he's undeniably one of, if not the best finisher at the club. And, in another alternative universe, if he has a little bit of everything else as well on top of that, then he probably does start for us and he is a brilliant striker. But, unfortunately, although it's their main role to score goals, you need more to be successful, especially in the Premier League and especially for a Jurgen Klopp team. So I don't know. I'm kind of in Neil's boat that maybe he's just never quite got it in him to be a top team's absolute number one striker. But perhaps if he goes there and he becomes somewhat of a focal point and he's just getting crosses put into him, through balls put into him on toast, then yeah, there's no reason why he can't help them, because they're definitely going through a bit of a rut at the moment. But no, he's a strange one, and I'm just not quite sure where he belongs exactly.
Yeah, I think ability-wise he can do it. Mentality-wise, is where my doubt is, I think.
I'll pose this question to you guys before we go in a conceptual situation. Divock Origi is 26 years old. And, I'm going to say Liverpool offer him a 5-year deal right now. Would you be happy with that or not?
Neil, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, if it maximised his value for a transfer in the relative short term, then yes. So rather than sort of running down his contract and him going for next to nothing, if giving him a 5-year deal suddenly would get 20 million for him in a season time, then I'd be fine with that.
Do you not think, though, that potentially he could offer what he has offered for 5 more years and still be of worth to the club, Louis?
No, I don't think I'd want him to sign another deal. Because I think that would stop us from being anywhere interested in going out and getting someone better. It's controversial because the stats don't lie. He comes on in massive games and does things that no one else could do. I don't know. It's just not quite enough for me. And if we could get someone better or have him sign a new contract, yeah, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't be happy with that news exactly.
We had a season last season where he literally did nothing, and part of that was because he didn't get in the team, he didn't get chances. But the manager's the one that sees him on the training ground every day. Something can't have been right for him to get someone of his talent to get so fewer chances as he did. And I just don't, I wouldn't want someone that's going to flit in and flit out for the next 4 or 5 years.
I think with Divock, and we've said this about other players as well, but he seems to feed off the crowd in a way that he doesn't sort of get intimidated by it.
Yeah.
If you think about the moments, like Champions League goals, Everton goal, even that Wolves goal, it just seems like he's the only one who's in his own little Divock world, to quote James Milner, and he doesn't actually understand the situation. I mean, to quote that Milner book again, like, why did Divock Origi go and pick that ball up when he scored that 96th minute winner against Everton? Did he actually know what the score was? Like, he's just so calm in these situations, and I just don't know whether you find that anywhere else. But as you mentioned, like, is it worth extending his time at Liverpool long term for those moments that you probably get 2 or 3 of a season? When you could get
exactly,
10,
he hasn't
11.
got enough. He hasn't got enough for a full season. Some people would say just keep him on the bench, which is fine, but he'll score a goal in a brilliant moment, like against Wolves, and then you say, okay, brilliant, you've played well. Here's a start in the next 2-3 fixtures against mid-table teams, and he'll just drop like 4 or 5 out of 10 performances, and that's not a title-winning striker.
One thing I will say is I don't think too many people would have been disappointed if he'd have been sold in the summer for a reasonable fee. I don't think there's anyone that will want to see him go in January now, with assuming he can get back to fitness, which is another undisclosed injury. I think we see him as a viable option at least until the end of the season, don't we? Which possibly in the summer we didn't, because he has had something of a resurgence.
Yeah.
What does undisclosed tend to mean? Am I being naive? But why don't they disclose?
It's not been spoken about. It's
a strange one.
It's all strange at Liverpool because you don't really see much getting spoken about. I think one in recent years was Oxlade-Chamberlain's injury after Roma. It was said to be 6 months. It turned out to be 12. Another was, how long Thiago was out for last time.
Oh, that was undisclosed. Undisclosed FC.
I genuinely fear how long Thiago is going to be out this time because of what happened before. But look, we can only move on, gents. Going on, before we leave, we'll chat about Arsenal quickly. How strong do you think he'll go in terms of the lineup, Neil?
I think he'll play the squad players that need games, like Neco Williams. I think Tyler Morton will be another one that plays, Oxlade, Curtis Jones, and then I think he'll have to pad it out with senior players. Robertson should be back, so he can come back in. But we could be missing up to 12 players, so it's not going to be perfect. I don't think the 3 players that had suspected positive COVID tests will be ready, from what I read earlier today. So it's really whether Divock or Taki can be available. Thiago, as you said, it doesn't sound too promising. So he'll play the squad players he can do, and I think he'll have to pad it out. I think he'll pad it out with senior players rather than under 23s, because I think semi-final. I think Arsenal go strong. I think they're in a reasonable. They were very unlucky on Saturday or whenever it was. So we need to go there and try and get a result and bring them back to Anfield to finish the job.
Same question.
He needs to go all out for me. It's I hate to put that kind of pressure on us, but we've got to win some sort of silverware this year, with the league turning into a runaway with Man City. And being in the semi-final already of this competition, there's no point in sitting back now. As Anthony says in the live comments, we've got the FA Cup on Sunday against Shrewsbury. So if there's anyone who really needs a rest, then that's the time to do it. If they're fit and able to play, I think they've got to be in the starting 11 against Arsenal, because even though they lost in that game, they'll feel cheated and they'll be coming full guns blazing in this to try and make amends, get on the right side of the referee, try and get some early bookings against Liverpool players early on. They're going to be right up for a fight, and we need to be ready to go toe-to-toe with them. Absolutely.
But anyway, we will move on and let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining us on Transfer Central. We will be back with another stream later in the week. We might be doing a debate room. We might be doing another one of this. Who knows? But make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're watching all of the videos. We've got a really, really sick one came out earlier about Thiago and his impact on Liverpool. But yeah, make sure to drop Louis and Neil a follow on Twitter. You can see it right on the screen, right there. And we will catch you in the next stream. Enjoy the darts if you're watching it, and you'll never walk alone.